Good evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and this is Dave Denton, and we are here to talk to you about the Factivist Project with the Factivist Report for Sunday, August 21st, 2022. Without further ado, here's Dave to talk about the poison that is known as the Grand Old Party.
Don't talk about the Grand Old Party. Don't talk about the GOP like that. They're the law and order party. Yes.
Yeah,
no.
Sure,
So there's a giant myth that the GOP is the law and order party, or that's what they push. They push that, all of these radical leftist groups are taking over the country, et cetera, et cetera. Black Lives Matter, Antifa. We've heard it over and over again. But
by the way, have you heard anything from either Antifa or Black Lives Matter for months? No. Yeah, me either.
No. But there is building evidence to the exact opposite. That over the past years, and especially with Trump accelerating it, crime is not only accepted in the GOP, to some degree, it's even expected in the GOP. And a lot of this, in the past, you've had a lot of financial crimes, and there's some of that, and there's some of your typical stuff, but it's becoming more and more radicalized, more and more linked to groups like the Proud Boys and the
Oath Keepers,
Boogaloo Boys, whoever, white supremacists, and it's just fighting the democratic law establishment, corrupt law establishment, when in all honesty, all they're doing is they're protecting their own ass.
I also want to say that the Republicans encourage violence.
They do. And I'll go through that
and
over.
People like Rick Scott, who spoke at Turning Point about the biggest menace and the biggest evil that we face is the left. Okay? People need to wake up here, folks.
And by the way, Rick Scott in here is in the list of one of the people who took the fifth multiple times. I believe it was 45 during his investigation. So, and there are a lot of people who are calling for the execution of someone, whether it be the execution of Fauci. Now, the big one is the execution of Merrick Garland, or the expulsion, firing Merrick Garland, or whatever, and we'll get into it. But we're gonna start this puppy off. So we're gonna start with an article that I believe it's a couple years old, maybe. Hold on. Okay, are we gonna do this? Hold on. There. Okay. Oh, okay. So it's relatively new. This one's relatively new, actually. From fringe to the forefront, an extremist takeover of the GOP. Now, this is by Navin Nayak, last month, and there were a couple things that I wanted to talk about. There are two issues that truly capture just how radical the Republican Party has become. First, MAGA Republicans have a shameless willingness to fabricate and propagate lies to challenge legitimate elections, such as John Fetterman being a Satanist that was won by our own Steve Bannon, or that he's unfit. He can't even fit two sentences together. Have we looked at Herschel Walker? I'm just saying, John Fetterman had a stroke and has a very, very slight speech issue, which is improving over time. And they're like, well, Dr. Oz can't even beat a stroke victim. This guy isn't fit for office, blah, blah, blah. Shut up.
Dr. Oz can't even make crudities properly, so let's not even go there. That's
right.
Been the big thing.
At least 120 Republican primary candidates this cycle endorsed the big lie. It's likely that the only future elections that MAGA Republicans will deem legitimate are the ones that they win. So isn't that convenient that you just say, oh well, the election wasn't legitimate, taking your ball and going home basically, unless you win, which in very mild circumstances would be called whining, but in more extreme circumstances would be a crime. And we'll get into it, depending on how you deal with it. The second and even more terrifying shift is that political violence is now openly promoted by MAGA Republicans and acquiesced to by Republican leaders. As a recent Center for American Progress Action analysis showed, nearly 100 Republican candidates had run political ads this cycle brandishing, shooting, or displaying firearms. For what? They're not a sheriff. They're not a cop. Just saying. And more than a quarter of those explicitly threatened a group of Americans or the government itself. Even the horrific violence of the insurrection on January 6th, in which more than 150 law enforcement officers were injured, maimed, or killed, has done nothing to temper MAGA Republicans' push for violence. And we will talk about this a little bit more. In Missouri, the frontrunner, who was Eric Greitens, who, by the way, did lose that, and we'll talk about it in a minute, released an ad explicitly inviting his supporters to join MAGA and kill rhinos. Rather than denounce the ad or make it clear that the National Republican Senatorial Committee would never support a candidate promoting political violence against anyone, Senator Rick Scott, the chair of the committee, said, I think it's up to the voters in Missouri. Well, guess what? They voted to say that was unacceptable.
Good.
And by the way, it's not only the ad itself, it's around the 1 minute 40 mark, I think. But this is The Hill, their little news show called The Rising. They talk about it. They talk about the hypocrisy of it, and they talk about all of, with how, Eric Greitens talks about the overreach of the American government, but he's turning around and telling people to kill rhinos. Just saying. So he's slammed for a rhino hunting campaign ad. Today we're going rhino hunting, which is Republicans in name only. The rhino feeds on corruption marked by the stripes of cowardice. Now, by the way, his idea of a rhino is one that does not support Trump or voted to impeach him or whatever. Then you have a tactical team busting through the door, throwing smoke bombs, and storming with their guns drawn. Join the MAGA crew, get a rhino hunting permit. Eric Greitens lost his primary, but promised his constituents he would not disappear from politics, promising his constituents that all you need is patience. I will be back. I will run. We will prevail. And he said a lot of Christian stuff and stuff like that. Make no mistake, the right thing to do is to keep these guys out of office and or vote them out, but they will not go away. Unless you will them away, don't listen to them, don't talk to them, don't.
The man who did beat him, Eric Schmidt.
Yeah.
Is also a Trump supporter.
Yeah. So just say, the way to beat this in this particular case, vote Democrat. So this is a story actually from a couple of years ago. This is from Michael Schur, May 1, 2018. Crimes are no longer a disqualification for Republican candidates. Now, we're not talking about small crimes either. This is a guy from New York State. Rep. Michael Grimm admitted to hiring undocumented workers, hiding $900,000 from tax authorities and making false statements under oath, but thinks that Staten Island Republicans should vote him back in the office because, hey, it's not like I was an axe murderer or anything. That's what he said.
Yep.
So we also have.
By the way, this is the party who wants to literally deport undocumented workers, unless, of course, they can benefit from them.
Right.
And they'll enslave them.
Right.
Because as you all know, slavery isn't all that bad, according to the GOP.
So we have another guy. This guy's name is Don Blankenship. He calls himself Trumpier than Trump. And I don't believe he's running now, but he's advertised heavily about what he says is the injustice of his misdemeanor conviction for conspiring to violate mine safety laws, which, by the way, led to one of his mines exploding and 29 people died. He got a misdemeanor charge for that and a year in prison. Instead of shutting up and just doing it, he's doing this and putting up political ads. He's crying victim.
There were 29 victims, sir.
Yeah, 29. Yeah, exactly.
You're not one of them.
Echoing Trump, Blankenship casts himself as a political prisoner who was targeted unfairly by the Obama administration after an explosion at one of his mines killed 29 people.
Good Jesus.
I have a few others, Joe Arpaio. Again, this guy is like herpes. He'll never go away.
Until he's dead.
Yeah. He received a pardon from Trump for his conviction on a misdemeanor contempt of court charge for his failure to follow a judicial order to curtail his immigration enforcement efforts. A lot of this has to do with immigration.
By the way, I don't know if you saw that in the paragraph, but just in case anybody wants to envision, Mike Pence is a hero.
Yeah.
Mike Pence, he's one of Mike Pence's favorites, Joe Arpaio.
Right. Oh, again, just because somebody does something right one time doesn't make them a saint either.
Correct.
So we have, let's see. Yeah, we had, oh, yeah. All right. So Navarro recently pled guilty to misdemeanor charge related to placing a tracking device on his wife's car without her knowledge. So, and, talking about Michael Flynn. So there's more, but you get the basic idea. This is becoming more and more acceptable. Now, we're just talking about nonviolent crimes for the most part. I mean, the one was stalking to a degree, but it's going to get worse as we go along. So, and of course, it starts at the top with Donald Trump. Okay. 4 criminal investigations. Here are 4 of them. Number 1, the issues with the Espionage Act. The fact that he took any documents out of the building of the White House, that's a violation of the Espionage Act. And it gets compounded the more serious they are when they have military ramifications. That's worse. Nuclear ramifications, that's worse. It just gets worse and worse and worse. I did put in an article here where his own Republican advisors said that him declassifying any documents was absolute nonsense. Then we have the January 6th investigation, which is continuing and will not only ensnare him, but other people. I know that Lindsey Graham, actually, that's Georgia, right? That wasn't January 6th. That was the Georgia.
Yeah. That was, they're a little further down the criminal path than
right.
Than the big investigation.
So number 3 was Letitia James and New York financial crimes and fraud and all of that, taxes, and then the election interference in Georgia. And I didn't put it in here, but Lindsey Graham has been given it has been halted for a minute. One of the things is that prosecutors have to be given instructions as to what they can ask Lindsey Graham about, in terms of Lindsey Graham's office and his duties and all of that stuff, and what is potentially classified, non-classified, whatever. But unless if that isn't involved in a crime. So I don't know where they're going with that. I'm sure it was a couple of, questions or whatever, but that's an ongoing thing. So, Trump's being hounded and harassed. Trump took the fifth 450 times. Just so you know.
Because that's what innocent people do.
And he previously said only people with something to hide. Donald Trump himself said only people with things to hide take the fifth. So,
mob bosses.
Mob bosses, or both. And Eric Trump, over 500 times. Just so you know. So he did answer one question. What is your name? I mean,
the orange jackaloon.
Asshole.
You should have answered.
This is just the article, guys, that where you had 18 Republican officials saying that the declassification stuff was nonsense. Never happened.
And by the way, you don't just wave your hand over the documents and declassify them. There is a process that must be gone through. And the people who originally classified the documents have to be involved in that decision.
Right. Again, okay, this is about the civil probe of his business, by the way, 450 times. So now we're going to get into some of the more violent comments by candidates and by people in general from the GOP. And a lot of this is in response to the Mar-a-Lago investigation, or the documents taken from Mar-a-Lago, a lot of it.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
With regard to Trump, would you have any objection to me putting in that Just Security link?
No.
The link that actually, those 4 little crimes right there are only the tip of the iceberg for Donald Trump. There is actually a website called Just Security that actually has a Donald Trump tracker for his criminal.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I didn't want to get too. Yeah, we could have done an entire show.
I think that's where people make some popcorn and pour themselves a martini, and
right,
down and take a trip through Fantasy Island.
It's not just Trump now. Nope. It's not just one guy, nope. Such as this jerk. Okay, I didn't get the tweet, but I know you have it. Can you insert that? So this is Lewis. He's a constitutionalist, a patriot, and a fighter, fighting Florida's enemies, and apparently shooting FBI agents or calling for FBI agents to be shot. He was taken off. He's a candidate for state house. I can't remember exactly where.
I don't know
But
the district, but he's in Florida.
he is in Florida. So, oh, look. Chairman of the St. John County Republican Liberty Caucus, an organization dedicated to voting out rhinos. So he obviously is a pro-Trump guy, but he was banned on Twitter forever for suggesting people be able to shoot FBI agents on site
And
other
IRS agents
I,
and various sundry other groups with 3 initials.
right. Not GOP.
Not the GOP, though.
Marjorie drafted an article of impeachment against Merrick Garland for a partisan investigation of Donald Trump taking boxes of classified documents out of the White House and bringing them to his resort. So, and amazingly and disappointingly, she was not the most irrational GOP member when it came to this. We have in New York Carl Palladino, who, yes, he's a dirtbag. He went on Breitbart and said that Merrick Garland should be executed, and then turned around and said that the comment was facetious. If you're going to be facetious, you're not going to do it on Breitbart, because they're going to take it seriously. Or the people watching Breitbart could very well take it seriously.
I don't think he was being facetious either.
No, he wasn't.
He may be a Goomba, but he's not my Goomba.
So we have a couple of unelected people who are running our government in an administration of people like Garland, who should not only be impeached, he probably should be executed, Palladino said. The guy is just lost. He's a lost soul. He's trying to get an image, and his image, his methodology is just terrible. To raid the home of a former president is just, people are scratching their heads and saying, what is wrong with this guy? Well, I would ask you, which guy? What is wrong with Donald Trump taking classified documents out?
In my opinion, Merrick Garland is none of those things, by the way.
Right.
Merrick Garland is given Donald Trump plenty of latitude on this document thing. They have started talking to him.
Yep.
They've been talking to him for months. They sent people out to collect stuff, and they hid even more. They didn't get everything. They tried to do it by subpoena. He did not respond. They have been in contact with him. He has had every opportunity to return those fucking documents. He has done none of that. I'm tired of the goddamn whining.
So, okay, this article is August 18th, 2022, I believe. When were the documents taken from Donald Trump? July?
Yeah.
July. Let's just, for arguments, July 20th, something like that. Do me a favor, check the date real quick. Here's my point. Donald Trump left office in January of 2021. So what the hell? Well over a year.
The question isn't what's wrong with Merrick Garland. The question is what's wrong with the president who thinks he is totally above the law.
I believe that Donald Trump doesn't think he's above the law. He thinks that he makes the law. He's got that, I am the law because I'm president. First off, you're not president anymore. And second off, that's not how it works.
Privilege, la la land.
Right.
August 8th.
So August 8th. January January to January, January, February, February, March, March to April.
He said
So
yeah.
over a year and a half. Over a year and a half. Give me a break. So here is the pre-pardon or whatever unconditional pardon requests. This was Casey Hutchinson was one of the people who was talking about it. There were 6. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Mo Brooks. There's the Freedom Caucus guys. Who are the other? Andy Biggs. Okay, so here we go. Andy Biggs, Mo Brooks, Louis Gohmert, and Rep. Scott Perry. Okay.
By the way, Scott Perry's phone was also seized. Haven't heard anything about that yet.
Was Scott Perry the one that was talking about getting rid of Medicare and Medicaid?
No, that's Ron Johnson.
Ron Johnson. Oh, right. We're not talking about him yet, but we will. He's not in here, actually.
I talked about him this morning.
So here's a Rolling Stone article. So a GOP rep asked for Trump to pardon all 147 Republicans who voted to overturn the election. So Mo Brooks asked not only for a pardon for himself, but for a pardon of the 147 election deniers as well. In terms of the Mar-a-Lago raid, I believe I mentioned this before, an ex-Trump aide and right-wing Breitbart News person have been separately accused of doxing the FBI agents involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid. Oh, this is their office. I'm not buying that. Not buying that.
What?
The claim was that they just gave information about the offices, like the phone number to the offices.
No,
Right
no.
wing,
They
yeah.
didn't block anything out. They showed the fucking document and left the names right on it.
Yep.
It's absurd. Don't lie. Oh, wait, that's all they do. That's their stock and trade.
Right-wing media outlet Breitbart News and a former aide have been separately accused of doxing FBI agents involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid, which, by the way, is a crime. Revealed the identity of the 2 agents on Friday when it published a leaked copy of the warrant that authorized the search. So, oh, come on. Yeah. The version officially released hours later redacted the agent's names from the inventory receipt section of the warrant.
Yeah, the version officially released by the government did that.
Yeah, but beforehand they
No, they left it in. I saw it.
They left it in, yeah. And there have been people who have had to cancel events. I believe there was a judge or something that had to.
The judge that actually authorized the warrant was threatened also.
Right, but he had to cancel his Shabbat.
Yeah.
People have lives. Okay, this isn't a way to do it. All right, come on. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Doxing is all right. So doxing is defined as publishing private information about someone. So, you know. All right, let me get off this. Next is a list of several candidates who have been accused of assault and battery. Hold on. and things of that nature. One of them actually is Eric Greitens. Another one is Herschel Walker. A lot of 2022 Republican candidates have been accused of assaulting to threaten or assaulting or threatening to murder someone. So, all right, let's see if I can at least show the. So there you go. That's kind of a. All right, come on. Sorry, guys. It's starting to freeze on me. Come on. Hold on.
I go through Google too.
I did the short show on the other thing, and yeah. Okay, so let me see if I can. All right.
Come on now. Come on.
Oh, what is this? Stop it. Go away. All right.
Shut up.
So we have the guy I didn't know was Sean Parnell. So we have Eric Greitens. He put it in an ad. Let's go hunting rhinos. Herschel Walker, who had kids, didn't have kids. By the way, he's going to not have a debate with Raphael Warnock now.
And we really don't know why, except that he did mention that Raphael Warnock's going to have his supporters in the room. What the fuck? It's sort of like, honestly, this is what he really should have said. I'm not having this debate because I'm clueless about the issues and I can't form a full sentence. That's all he should have been. He should have just been honest about it. Anybody who's heard the man's, explanation for global warming knows he has only one brain cell. There's nothing to rub together up there.
Right. And by the way, he's had several people several women accuse him of assaulting him, and Mr. Walker. Now, to the best of my knowledge, Sean Parnell has only had one, which is his ex-wife, who testified that he once strangled her and that he has hit their children. In 2019, meanwhile, Parnell made an appearance on Fox Nation talk show in which he blamed feminism for creating women tyrants and asserted that men don't want to put up with the BS of high maintenance, narcissistic women.
Of course not. It's only the woman's role to put up with the BS of high maintenance, narcissistic men.
Exactly.
Go fuck yourself. Sorry. But I'm not sorry, just so you know.
Okay, so let me see. So now the next.
Voldemort.
Yep. Shitball number 14. Rick Scott. Okay, he wasn't violent. He just took some kickbacks.
Yeah. Now everybody's wondering where all that money is that he was managing for the GOP, since they have to cut ads. So make sure you give somebody who has policed the Medicare program who's charging you money.
Right. Make sure you get somebody who's stolen money to
steal some more.
Yeah. So there you go. There's Rick Scott.
That's Lord Voldemort.
Amazing. With the federal investigation of Rick Scott's former hospital company became public in 1997, the board of Columbia HCA forced him out, and he was devastated because he was left with $300 million in stock, a $5.1 million severance package, and $950,000 per year consulting contract for 5 years. What does Rick Scott call that? Taking responsibility.
You know what I call that? Holy shit. That's what I call that. You know,
Right.
what the fuck? Really? Jesus Christ.
Uh,
I can't believe it. I've seen people get fucking fired for stealing a dollar out of a fucking cash register, and this fucking bastard is just, oh, hello, I'll leave, but not before I clean you out.
right. Oh, let's give him, the RNC bank.
And then I know, let's have him consult for us. What a great idea. Jesus Christ.
Another one who asked for a pardon, by the way. Okay, so we have one of our favorite
Oh, yeah.
dirt balls. What is this? Why are you doing this to me? Hold on. Oh, that. All right, hold on. We're supporting Salon by showing your article. Go away. Thank you. Go away. Will you go away? Oh, come on. I don't know the name of the guy. There we go.
Oh,
The guy, so GOP candidate says back the blue, but campaigns with a felon who plotted to kill an FBI informant. And by the way, he pled guilty to it. So this is Kenneth Olabari, a repeat violent offender who pleaded guilty after the DOJ accused him of trying to hire a hitman to kill an FBI informant, which means either he's involved or someone hired him who is involved in some FBI investigation. I'm not saying that it was her, but what I'm saying is she knows the guy is violent. She knows. And she has him right next to her.
and in the meantime, by the way, she's running on a support the blue platform.
Right.
Support law enforcement, just, not in his case.
So we have, here we go. A Michigan election denier is disqualified as a candidate. So Ms. Carone, along with 10 other legislative candidates, made false statements on an affidavit that candidates were required to submit to election administrators. Now, is it a crime? Yeah, it is, but they're just basically saying you can't run. On one of the forms that was signed by Ms. Carone, she had attested she did not have any unpaid fines for election law violations that she did, and that all her public campaign filings were up to date. The county clerk, where Ms. Carone was running for office, said on Wednesday that that was not the case. Second time in recent months that Ms. Carone had been disqualified as a candidate. The Macomb County Clerk and Register of Deeds barred her in March from the August 2nd primary for state representative. When she signed the affidavit, Ms. Carone had owed at least $125 in late fees for missing the deadline twice for quarterly campaign filings in 2021, according to a letter from the clerk that was obtained by the New York Times. She also failed to file an annual statement for 2022 for a campaign and an amendment to a quarterly report last October. So the thing, sometimes they just don't let you run sometimes. This is one about more violent stuff. Churches called out for staying silent about their abusive MAGA members and violent antics. And look at those eyes. Can you imagine who that is? Ugh. So, in a column for a 10 religious news service, Christian author David Dorr called out religious institutions that turned a blind eye to high-profile members of the congregations who are not only abusive, but also threaten or incite violence. And this is the right thing to do. Okay, I'm not a hugely religious guy, but what I will say is that this guy is absolutely right. A lot of these people hide behind Christianity to spew bile and spew garbage and spew hate. And I'm not done with Marjorie Taylor
Everybody
Greene
shouldn't,
yet.
expect anything less from a group of people who spent years molesting children, but, they're not gonna stand up. They're just not. He's
They
right
won't.
to do this, but, they're not. They're right on board with all this.
Yep. Because it gives them visibility. In recent weeks, as elected officials who once tweeted back the blue now target federal law enforcement while also tweeting Bible verses, my mind has turned to some of the public arrangements that make this publicly abusive behavior possible. There are, of course, political parties, donors, voters, but there are also other institutions just as essential, if not more so, to successfully winning and wielding office. I refer here to churches. It's time to think and speak more specifically about the behaviors they normalize. And I agree with that. Such as GYM Jordan, accused of begging former Ohio State wrestlers not to support reports of sexual abuse. There is, and for some reason, it left. There's a blog out there, and I will put it in here. It's called JimJordan.com or something like that. It is basically all sources on this. Now, the last source that I saw was about 2018, but if you want to know about it, ton of stuff. So 6 wrestlers accused a doctor in the wrestling program of abuse. Jim Jordan ignored it and tried to cover it up. Period. And did that documentary come out yet?
The one George Clooney's working on?
Yeah, I don't think it has.
Coming.
It's coming. So now we have, oh God, Rep Matt Gaetz, and I'm not gonna. Well, I guess I will. Hold on. Look at that, Kelly Rissman.
Jimmy Neutron.
Kelly Rissman of Vanity Fair. This is an August 16th article this year. This is talking about the women against Matt Gaetz, because this guy, he's under investigation for the alleged sex trafficking of a 17-year-old girl, and he's going to appear at a high school in Okaloosa County, Florida.
In a little town called Niceville.
Yeah. where he is expected to speak directly with minors about their career aspirations in the military. I'm not being cute.
Maybe you should ask them if they want to do some traveling for them.
I'm not going to get fooling. I'm not going to get cute with it, but I swear to God, I hope that there's somebody in that room with him. Also, I hope he's not doing one-on-ones, or, I mean, Jesus, really. And these women, the mothers of these girls, have every right to be outraged. And
my kid would not even be going to school that day. I'm sorry, my kid would not be going to school. I don't care what Ron DeSantis had to say about it. But by the way, let me just say this. If all of these women are really disgusted by this guy, there's an opportunity for you to vote this motherfucker out. Just do it, people. I mean, this is a guy who is, the bottom of the barrel here. Dave appears to be frozen. We're in the frozen zone. So, hi. Let me talk while Dave's frozen. Oh, there we go. Where are you? We lost him. Okay, so let me talk a little bit while Dave is trying to figure out what planet he's on. We have a highly we are highly critical of the GOP, and we know that, and we're highly critical of the GOP for good reason. You know, they're literally criminals. There is nothing that bars any criminals from participating as public servants. And you know what? When we do get around to making changes to the way we do things here in this country politically, some of the things that need to change are the selection criteria for candidates. And no, I'm sorry. I realize this is the United States of America, but I don't believe that anybody, just anybody, should be able to run. Okay. I believe not only should people with a criminal record not be able to run. Let me give you an example. Lauren Boebert has a criminal record longer than her right arm. But we need to start, while we wrap our heads around the notion that we want more outsiders involved in politics, which I get. People with absolutely no qualifications or no understanding of the jobs can't start at the senatorial level or run for president. So when you want to move your way up into the world of politics, you need to start at the bottom. Okay, you run for local office, then you run for state office, county office, then you move up the ladder. There are all kinds of things we have to change. But one of the things that has to change is we cannot have criminals running for public office. The GOP are the first people that will tell you that we need to let felons stay felons and they can't vote while they're in jail. Well, then we can't have criminals running the country. Dave is asking me what we're doing. So hang on. He's asking me if we should restart. So you know what? I'm going to end this here and we'll give this another shot so we can finish up and we'll just merge it together. I'll be back. So here we are. We're back. Yep, it only took an hour, but hell, let's finish this mother.
Okay, so
you're on.
the last one that we're going to talk about is actually the guy local to me. His name is Lee Zeldin. Okay, so he faces a complaint. Now, it's possible that it could be a criminal charge, but basically what he did, he was trying to muddy the waters or like dilute the pool for Kathy Hochul and add some votes to a third party. I believe it was called the Independent Party or something. So the person that actually called him out was a libertarian, from what I've heard. Rep. Lee Zeldin faces complaint over allegedly fraudulent signatures, 11,000 signatures, and that might not seem a lot, but in in this case, it very well could make a difference.
The point is, whether or not it could make a difference, he's basically trying to steal the election. The party that's complaining about elections being stolen by various and sundry tactics is trying to steal the fucking elections themselves.
And by the way, Lee Zeldin was an election denier. He is a Trump supporter. He is a guy that voted in regards to the big lie and all of that stuff. He also has spoken extensively about his concerns regarding voter fraud and election integrity when he questioned the results of the 2020 presidential elections. So
let me suggest to you that Lee Zeldin can shut the fuck up.
Right, because last month the State Board of Elections tossed out about 13,000 invalid signatures, more than enough to lose Zeldin and the rest of the GOP statewide slate, included in the petition, the extra ballot line. He was playing a game. Now, these are allegations, and these are things that are going to have to be looked into. But just saying. So here's the last two things in regards to rules and laws. These are the kinds of laws that the Trump supporters, the MAGA heads, want. And they all affect the poor, the minority class, LGBT, Black people, women, girls, whatever. So first one, again, being one of Deb's favorite, Marjorie Taylor Greene introducing a bill, and I don't know how to get rid of this.
Oh, that's her just announcing it on Talk of the Fucker show.
Right. Oh, crap. So hold on. How can I? Oh, there we go. So she introduces a bill to make gender affirming care for transgender youth a felony because she's a doctor and she knows better. And in all honesty, because she's a bigot.
Transphobe.
The measure would make this a Class C felony, punishable by up to 25 years in prison for doctors or others to provide gender affirming care to a minor.
It's unbelievable in my mind. I just can't even fathom this.
Now, how much are they going to? What kind of felony are they going to charge for providing food to these people? I mean, for God's sake. So the next one, and again, this was a law. It's basically a loitering law. If you remember Adam Warren, he was the state attorney for Hillsborough that was kicked out by DeSantis. By the way, an elected state attorney, by the way. So Hillsborough's new, for now, state attorney wants to bring back Tampa's racist biking while black policy, leaders say.
This woman is the replacement for Adam Warren, is a Federalist Society judge.
She is. So this is Susan Lopez, appointed last week by Governor Ron DeSantis after he, in all honesty, illegally suspended Andrew Warren from office for no reason, by the way. So Warren had suspended this law, said he wasn't going to enforce it because he found that more than 70% of the resisting without violence cases in Hillsborough that occurred after a pedestrian or a bike stop involved black defendants. So these are people who were stopped by police officers, say, hey, what do you mean? I didn't do anything, blah, 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 blah. Oh, you're resisting. Okay. So Warren made it clear in his memo that bicycle stops could still be important when it comes to safety, that kind of thing, if they're running in front of cars, whatever. But mainly if there is a belief that the bicyclist or pedestrian is a threat to public safety. So this woman is reinstating this law immediately.
Actually.
Yep. It's a walk back into a dark part of Tampa's history. It's basically a profiling.
It's disgusting.
A profiling law. So my very last well, now I'm not saying that this is what happens with every single Democrat or whatever, but you never see this with the GOP, okay? Never. And by the way, I understand that it does happen. We got DeSantis because Andrew Gillum was a horrible candidate. And even though he was going to jail, he only lost by half of a percentage point. But here is an example of someone. This is someone who ran after they were arrested and spent time in jail. So these political candidates, and these are Democrats, are embracing their criminal record in order to provide help to those affected by certain laws, and also to help people reform, and to help with police reform, and with prison reform. So the individual to the left, her name is Tara Simmons. She is in office now. She was arrested back in 2011 for theft and for drug related charges, because she was working at Burger King. She was trying to, whatever, feed her family. No excuses. She did the wrong thing, and she's very contrite about it. But she did her time. And now she's trying to help people and keep them from going down that path. Okay. One of the first things Tara Simmons tells voters when asking for their support isn't the prestigious fellowship she's won or the legislation she's helped write. It's about the years she spent behind bars, and not to rail against, the crooked cops or any of that stuff. It's to talk about reform, prison reform, education reform, all of that. So stories for Simmons, a candidate for state representative in Kitsap County, and I believe she's been for at least one term, and she's running for re-election. This story was when was this? By Christy Thompson from the Marshall Project. So it's in 2020. Okay. I believe they're 2-year terms, but I'm pretty sure they're 2-year terms. She's shared countless campaign events, what these days are entirely online. How she lost her car, her house, her nursing license, and her voting rights. How after coming home in 2013, most of her minimum, so this is after, okay. Most of her minimum wage paychecks from Burger King were taken to pay the $7,600 she owed in court fees. How she managed to climb out of that life, get a law degree, and begin a civil rights nonprofit. So she was a nurse. She got involved in some illegal activity. She was arrested. She did her time. I went to prison. It's not something I'm proud of, but I understand how people end up there. Our criminal system is just a Band-Aid, and I want to prevent incarceration from happening to begin with people, if she can. So there are some people who are doing this for the right reason, not using it as a weapon against the Democratic establishment. So, are all Democrats squeaky clean? No, but they tend to be way more contrite and own up to what they do more often than not. I'm not saying everybody, and turn things around and do the right thing. I understand this is one or two. There's another guy, he lost in the primary, but same thing, wanted to do the same thing. This was in Detroit, I believe, Kevin Harris. Okay, so
let me just say something right now, though. You do not hear, again, this is going to go back to the both parties of the same thing.
They're not. Yeah.
I hear the Democrats espousing violence towards the GOP. You do not hear the Democrats talking about, harming people. They do not make ads carrying guns. And most importantly, I'm not sure that any of them have a criminal background and are running for office. Not that I know of.
Right. There are very few. She was the only one, by the way. Tara Simmons was the only one that ever, was in prison before. But and the thing was, it's the right message.
Right.
It's not like she's trying to deny it or any of that kind of stuff. She's open about it, and so these guys, they just like the Michael Gren. Okay, it's not like I was an axe murderer or anything.
Right.
$900,000 in tax fraud.
Right.
This woman, I don't know. I tried to find, all I know was drugs. She was a nurse, so it's very possible she was addicted or whatever, and things happen in life, but she wasn't trying to create an empire or anything like that. So these are the kind of people too that fall through the cracks, and I'm not saying that they did the right thing, when they got arrested, but this is what reform looks like. This is what real reform looks like. If you're going to vote for anyone who previously did something wrong, this is where, this is the kind of thing you're going for.
The other thing I just want to say, and I was saying this while you were off camera.
Yeah.
You had your little computer meltdown. The qualifications to run for office need to change.
Yes.
It cannot just be anybody in America can pick up anything at any time and decide to run for president of the United States. Not only do I believe that criminals can't run, with few exceptions. I mean, it has to be a certain level of criminality, like for this woman, okay?
Right.
But
it wasn't like a major felony.
We can't just have people who have never been in office before decide to, like Donald Trump, decide to run for president of the United States. There needs to be some kind of, it should be that you start at the local level and you hold office there. Then you move up to the state level. Then you hold office there. Then you move up to the federal level. People have to have qualifications to do their job. When I go in on a job interview, when I went to my job interview to work for Millipore, I had to be qualified to get that job. In America, you can run the fucking country and be a fucking, dare I say it, reality TV host. Come on, folks. Let's get real here. We need to reform this system too. The system by which we select political candidates.
By the way,
criteria, rules, and I'm sorry, folks, they need to have a clean history.
Before this woman ran for office, she had to go through cleaning up her past, getting another degree, running a nonprofit, showing over time and over years that she was willing to do the work to do it. And she did. Okay, so not just have a radio show or be a whatever talking head on the TV for a while, like Carrie Lake or Tudor Dixon or whatever. And if you threaten someone, if you go on Twitter and you advocate for the murder of FBI agents, like that individual did from Florida, that should immediately disqualify you in a.
You should just tell him right now he can't run. But they're not. They're not going to do that.
No,
they just not.
Oh, that's a First Amendment right. No, it's not.
First Amendment right. It's a threat. Okay, I'm tired of hearing about the goddamn First Amendment. I really fucking am.
Right. And under what? How are these Republicans? By the way, how are they law and order? Number one, and number two, when they threaten people, when they threaten to kill people within their own party, oh, we're just it's just hyperbole. No, it's not. Not when you go on websites and Breitbart and OAN and Newsmax, knowing full well what your audience is, stir these guys up. That's incitement, by the way.
And by the way, let me just say this. Ever since the Mar-a-Lago thing, Donald Trump's been inciting his people, okay? He can say all he wants. We need to dial it back. He's full of shit. You know what? He knows exactly what he's doing. So
no one should be threatened for doing their job, doing a legal job. Merrick Garland, you want to try to, first off, he's not going to be impeached or removed, by the way. So screw you. But The second thing is anyone who threatens someone like that, again, should be removed from a ballot. Period. End of story. And another thing is that the presidential pardons should be limited in more ways, because they're out of control too. You have people
We need to have
conspiring.
criteria for that. I'm sorry, but you know,
You have people conspiring with the man who has the power to pardon in the first place and then asking for pardons. I mean, and then Trump turn around and saying that he can pardon himself. There have to be stronger or stricter criteria for that. There do. There should. So
all right.
anyway, guys, that's what I have. Listen, you may not care too much for the Democrats saying their money and corporate and all that, but you know what? Number one, that's what primaries are for. And there's a primary in New York. Most of the primaries are going to be done at the end of at the end of this week, by the end of this week. So if there is a primary and you don't like a candidate because you think they're corporate and you haven't been helping to get your person in, that's on you, number one. And number two, to think that these people have your interests at heart for all the nonsense that they've done, cover-ups, sexual predator stuff, covering up for a sexual predator in a wrestling program with Jim Jordan, or Matt Gaetz with his trafficking of a minor, or any of these, even Rick Scott with his taking kickbacks. Okay, I know it's not violent, but that's a lot of money. Or a guy who blows up through negligence, contributes to blowing up one of his coal mines, and then rails against the government for incarcerating him. These are the people we're talking about. Okay, not every single one of them have won their primary. I was trying to get to you the history and a little bit of background and color of what these guys are. It surprised even me so to the extent that some of these guys have. Kerry Lake basically hiring a thug, and it shouldn't.
Like he's a thug.
It shouldn't surprise me because of the element of the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, all that stuff infusing themselves in the government. This is what is happening over time if we do not push back and get these guys out. And they will keep coming, by the way. So I'm done.
Okay.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend or whatever.
All right, kids. I'm ending this recording.
Yep.